Welcome to Reddit Family Secrets, where trust shatters in an instant and the truth costs more than you ever imagined. If you crave stories that grip you from the first word and don't let go, hit subscribe and stay until the end, because what's coming will change everything you thought you knew. Ever been betrayed and then handed the bill? That's exactly what happened to me. I'm Marcus Chun, and my wife just got back from a work conference in Miami. She walked through our front door in Seattle, didn't even set down her suitcase, and slid a manila folder across our kitchen counter like she was serving divorce papers. Inside, medical bills. For an STD. Not, how was your week? Not, I missed you. Just numbers and a diagnosis that made my blood run cold. Then her phone lit up on the counter. Brandon Hayes, her boss. Thinking about you. Hope treatment goes well. My chest tightened. In that second, I knew this wasn't just about getting sick. This was betrayal with a price tag, and somehow I was supposed to pay it. So here's the question. Did I cover her medical bills? Or did I do something else entirely? Stay with me, because what happens next will make your jaw drop. That first night, neither of us slept. Elena curled up on her side of the bed, facing away from me, breathing in shallow gasps like she was drowning in silence. I stared at the shadows on our ceiling, listening to the distance between us grow with every passing minute. Around 2 a.m., she whispered, "Please don't ask me anything tonight." 9 years of marriage, and she'd never said that. We used to pride ourselves on being the couple that communicated. No secrets, no games. We talked through everything, even the uncomfortable stuff. I reached for her hand, pure instinct after nearly a decade together. She flinched away like my touch would burn her. That's when reality hit. I was lying next to my wife, and I didn't feel safe anymore. So I made a decision. No yelling, no accusations. Just observation. Quiet, careful observation. Morning came like nothing had happened, which might have been the strangest part. Elena was already dressed when I walked into the kitchen. Makeup heavier than usual, smile plastered on too tight, movements jerky and rehearsed. She poured coffee she never drank, kept her eyes anywhere but on me. The manila folder had disappeared. "I have a follow-up appointment," she said, grabbing her keys. "I'll explain everything tonight. I promise." That promise felt wrong. Not reassuring, rehearsed. After she left, our condo fell into painful silence. The refrigerator hummed. A delivery truck beeped outside. Normal sounds for a normal day, while my world was falling apart. I sat at the counter and let my mind rewind. The 4-day conferences that stretched into 7. Her phone suddenly password protected 6 months ago. Late night calls taken on our balcony. Voice low, laughter I didn't recognize. Back then, I called it ambition. Now it looked like a pattern. And patterns don't lie. Around noon, Elena called. Her voice sounded scripted, like she'd practiced this conversation in her car. "It's chlamydia," she said. Then, rushing, from the hotel gym equipment. Or maybe the hot tub. "The doctor said happens." I didn't interrupt. I let her spin the story. "I need treatment," she continued. "It's expensive, and my insurance doesn't cover the specialist. Can you help with the bill?" There it was. STD first, money second. Like I was supposed to pay and never question the how or why. After we hung up, I sat with my phone in my hand, thinking about how we met. A coffee shop in Capitol Hill, 10 years ago. She'd laughed at my terrible jokes, asked about my photography hobby, made life feel simple and honest. We married because we both wanted stability, not chaos. I'd promised myself I'd never become my father, the suspicious type who interrogates and controls. So when Elena climbed the corporate ladder at a tech startup, I supported her, paid for her certifications, picked up extra freelance work, never kept score. But now, support felt like a trap I'd walked into willingly. I opened my laptop and pulled up our shared calendar, the one we use for transparency. Her last trip jumped out. The itinerary said 4 days in Miami. The hotel charges and flight confirmation said 7. My hand started shaking as a memory surfaced. Her midnight call from that trip, music pounding in the background, her voice loose and giggly. Having fun, I'd asked half asleep. "You know it. Love you." Click. I'd smiled, proud that my wife was enjoying herself. Now, that memory tasted like poison. Elena came home that evening looking defeated, shoulders slumped, eyes red. She sat across from me and showed me her phone. A payment breakdown. Tests, antibiotics, specialist visits. My eyes caught on the date at the top. Diagnosis, 6 days ago. I looked up slowly. You already knew. Her face twitched. You knew. I repeated quieter. 6 days ago. And you didn't tell me. Tears came fast. I was terrified, Marcus. I didn't want to scare you. Scare me. Like this was a fender bender, not a potential health crisis. 6 days to delete texts, polish her story, decide what I deserved to know. I felt something inside me go numb. That night, she reached for me in bed out of habit. My body went rigid. I pulled away. I need space, I said. She turned away, crying softly into her pillow. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about risk, about what she'd hidden, about the fact that she'd been intimate with me while sitting on a 6-day-old secret. For the first time in our marriage, our bedroom felt dangerous. The next morning, I kept my voice calm. Do you still have the clinic receipts? Elena froze, just half a second, but I saw it. Then she smiled too quickly. Yeah, I'll send them. If I'm paying, I said, I need to budget properly. Rent, car payment, student loans. Life doesn't pause. Her jaw tightened. Why are you making this so difficult? She grabbed her bag and rushed toward the door. I'm late for work. I nodded, letting her go. That half-second pause replayed in my mind. People don't hesitate over receipts unless receipts can reveal the truth. After she left, I opened our shared email, the one she'd always used for travel transparency. I searched for her Miami trip and found the hotel booking. The conference was supposed to be downtown near the convention center, but the booking wasn't there. It was at a beachfront resort, the kind with a spa, infinity pools, and no business conference anywhere near it. A chill ran down my spine. I remembered her excitement weeks before the trip. Brandon personally selected me for this opportunity, she'd said, glowing. I'd kissed her forehead. I'm so proud of you. Now that memory made me sick. A resort isn't work. A resort is an escape. And suddenly I knew exactly what. And who she'd been escaping to. I waited until mid-afternoon and called her. Does Brandon know? I asked. About the STD? Silence. Too long to mean nothing. Then a nervous laugh. Why would you ask that? Just curious. I could hear office sounds behind her. Keyboards clicking, phones ringing, her breathing slightly faster. She didn't say no. She talked around it instead. Mentioned insurance, treatment protocols, how stressed she was. Every word was a detour. And all I could think about was that text. Thinking about you. Hope treatment goes well. That's not how a boss texts an employee. That's how a man texts a woman he feels responsible for. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about Brandon Hayes. I'd only met him once, at the company holiday party. Firm handshake, sharp suit, confidence that bordered on arrogance. He kept circling back to Elena all evening. She's exceptional, he'd told me, hand on her shoulder. We're lucky to have her. That hand had lingered. I'd noticed, but buried the discomfort under pride. Now that touch read differently. It wasn't mentorship. It was ownership. The next morning, an unknown number texted me. How is she doing today? No name. No explanation. I didn't need one. I knew who checks in like that. I didn't reply. Instead, I booked my own clinic appointment. When I hit confirm, my hand shook, not from fear, from rage. Because this wasn't just cheating. It was risk. My health on the line without my consent. She'd had 6 days to tell me. She'd chosen silence. I wasn't going to wait for symptoms to teach me what she refused to say. At the clinic, the doctor asked for dates. When Elena traveled, when symptoms appeared, when we'd last been intimate. I answered each question, feeling a knot tighten in my chest. Then he said it, calm and clinical. It's virtually impossible this came from gym equipment or a hot tub. Something inside me went cold. Not because I wanted her to be guilty, because I wanted the world to still make sense. But science doesn't negotiate. It just reveals what's possible and what's not. I drove home, gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe normally. The second I walked in, Elena didn't ask about my appointment. She didn't ask what the doctor said. She asked, so, did you decide about the payment? And that's when her gym equipment story finally died. Waiting for my test results felt like waiting for a death sentence. Every phone buzz made my heart jump. Elena kept texting about the bill. The clinic needs payment by Friday. They won't schedule follow-ups without it. I stared at the message for a long time before replying, still thinking. Because if I paid, I wasn't just helping his sick spouse. I was signing off on a lie. I'd become the cover story, the dependable husband who makes consequences disappear. So I did what I always do when the world tilts. I gathered facts. Bank statements, travel confirmations, calendar entries, small charges that didn't fit, late-night timestamps, Brandon's check-ins, forming a pattern. I wasn't buying medicine. I was buying clarity. And once you see clearly, you can't unsee. 2 days later, the clinic called. Unknown number. My throat tightened before I answered. The nurse was brief. Mr. Chun, your results are negative. Relief hit me so hard I had to sit down. My knees went weak. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Then anger arrived, slow, heavy, and ice-cold. Because negative didn't just mean I was safe. It meant her timeline didn't hold. It meant the gym equipment story was exactly what it sounded like. A cheap lie covering an expensive betrayal. I left work early. The drive home felt endless. Every red light, a personal insult. When I walked in, Elena was on the couch, scrolling her phone. She looked up and forced a smile. You're home early. I got tested, I said. Didn't sit. Didn't soften it. I'm negative. The color drained from her face. Her mouth opened, then closed. Her brain scrambling for a new story. That doesn't mean anything, she finally said. Maybe it hasn't shown up yet. That's not what the doctor said. She swallowed hard, gripping her phone tighter. Then I asked the question she'd been dodging since the manila folder. Why does the diagnosis say 6 days before you came home? Silence. Not thinking silence. Caught silence. Her phone buzzed. She flipped it face down on instinct, too fast, too practiced. Who keeps checking on you? I asked. She stared at the wall. No answer. Not even a weak lie. Just silence and a tight jaw. That night, I slept on the couch. Not to punish her. I needed distance to think clearly, to hear my own thoughts without her breathing beside me. The living room felt colder than it should have. And that midnight call from Miami kept replaying. Her laughter, the bass thumping, the sudden click when she ended the call, like someone had walked up and she didn't want to hear. This wasn't just betrayal. It was calculated risk, a trap I never agreed to step into. Before sunrise, I opened our shared email again, pulled up the Miami reservation. My eyes scanned quickly. Dates, address, room type. Then I saw it, 2 guests, 1 king bed. My hand started shaking, but my mind went strangely clear. The extra 3 days. The out-of-network clinic. Brandon's check-ins. The diagnosis date 6 days before she came home. The way she kept pressuring me to pay, like money could erase the timeline. There was no gym equipment story big enough to cover 2 guests, 1 king bed. I sat in the dark kitchen staring at that line until it burned into my memory. Because once you see something that clear, you can't negotiate with it. When Elena came home that evening, she didn't storm in. She softened. Her voice went small, almost childlike. She sat beside me, close enough to touch. I just need your support, Marcus. I'm scared. For a second, instinct pulled me toward her. 9 years of habit. Then I saw it again. 2 guests, 1 king bed. I slid back an inch. Support doesn't mean blindness. She started crying, reaching for my hand. I didn't take it. Instead, I opened my phone and started saving screenshots. Dates, charges, every message I could find. I built a timeline and backed it up twice. Somewhere in that silence, I stopped feeling like a husband. I felt like the keeper of truth. 2 nights later, the softness vanished. Elena walked in, dropped her bag, and said, I need the money tomorrow. No preface. No shame. Arms crossed like she was collecting a debt. As your wife, this is your responsibility. You're my husband. I stared at her, something clicking into place. Dignity finally making noise. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She slapped it face down without thinking. Who is that? I asked. Her eyes flashed. Why are you obsessed with my phone? Can you just do what I ask? The anger rose, steady and cold. I'm not your ATM, Elena. The room went still. For the first time, she looked like she understood I wasn't bluffing. Her phone buzzed again. I was closer. I picked it up. Didn't unlock it. Just read the screen. Brandon Hayes. Is she okay? I'm worried about her. Elena froze, eyes wide. Then fear hardened into anger. So what? She snapped. So he knows, I said quietly. She swallowed, then nodded stiffly. Yes, he knows. He feels responsible. That word hit like a slap. Responsible for what, Elena? She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The air thickened, because a man doesn't feel responsible for an STD unless he's part of the story. I set the phone down like it was contaminated. If Brandon feels responsible, I said, let him pay. Her eyes flashed. That's not the point. You're my husband. And there it was. The trap, clean and ugly. If I paid, I wouldn't just be covering a bill. I'd be covering the truth. I'd be the man who made betrayal look normal. I shook my head. I'm not doing that. What are you saying? She demanded. I'm saying I need to know who I'm actually married to. No more stories. No more half-truths. Her face tightened, tears useless, anger ineffective. For the first time, she looked lost. That night, after Elena disappeared into the bedroom, I opened my banking app. Not to play detective. Feelings weren't getting me anywhere. Numbers don't argue. The week of the Miami trip, the pattern shifted. Late-night charges. Room service at 1 a.m. Spa treatments for 2. Wine bar tabs. Nothing that screamed on its own. But together, they told a story. I built a timeline on my laptop. Trip dates in yellow. Diagnosis date circled in red. Brandon's text stacked beside it like evidence. When you strip emotion away, betrayal becomes logistics. And logistics don't lie. While I saved everything, I heard my grandfather's voice like he was in the room. If you start feeling crazy for asking questions, it's because someone needs you quiet. I always thought he was bitter. That night, I understood he was protecting me. I exported everything. Screenshots, confirmations, charges. Backed it up twice, once in the cloud, once on a USB drive in my camera bag. Not for revenge. For reality. My phone buzzed. Elena, can we talk? I stared at it, then typed, tomorrow. I wasn't running. I was choosing clarity over chaos. Because when we talked, she was going to try rewriting history. And I was done letting her hold the pen. The next evening, Elena sat across from me at our dining table, eyes swollen. I messed up, she whispered. I was lonely. It didn't mean anything. That line made my skin crawl. Because if it didn't mean anything, why did it cost everything? I didn't argue. I reached into my bag and set papers on the table. Clean, ordered, undeniable. Timeline. Resort booking. Bank charges. Screenshots. She picked them up one by one. Her breathing changed halfway through, short, uneven. Her hand shook. Then she looked up, defensive. So, you were spying on me? Just like that, the conversation tried to shift from what she did to what I found. I didn't flinch. I didn't dig through your life. I organized what already existed. My voice stayed calm, because calm is power. Elena's tears returned. I was going to tell you. I nodded. You knew how to ask me for money. You knew how to pressure me. So don't tell me you didn't know how to tell the truth. You just didn't want to. She started to speak. I held up a hand. This isn't just cheating, I said. You put my health at risk. You took away my choice. You let me sleep next to you while sitting on the truth for 6 days. That landed harder than anything else. Her mouth opened, then closed. The excuses she'd been holding suddenly looked useless. I was lonely doesn't cover endangering someone you swore to protect. I reached into my bag and slid one last page across the table. It wasn't a threat. It was a draft email to HR, dates, policy violations, screenshots attached. Elena's eyes went wide. You wouldn't. I kept my tone flat. This isn't revenge. It's accountability. She started shaking her head, searching my face for the old version of me. The guy who covered, smoothed, fixed. I didn't give her that. I clicked send. The whoosh sound was small, almost harmless, but it landed like a gavel. For a beat, she didn't move. Then her mouth opened, no words coming out, like she'd finally realized consequences don't care about tears. The next morning, HR replied. Short, professional. They'd received the report and opened an investigation. Brandon went silent. No more worried texts. No check-ins. Nothing. That silence screamed louder than any apology. Elena paced our living room, refreshing her email like she could undo what I'd done. You ruined my life, she said, voice raw. I shook my head. No, I refused to ruin mine. Then I told her my decision. 30 days to move out. I'd cover shared bills for those 30 days. Rent, utilities, basics. After that, her medical bills were hers. She stared at me like I was a stranger. And in a way, I was the man who finally stopped paying for lies. Here's what I learned the hard way. Love without boundaries isn't love. It's permission. And if you keep paying for disrespect with money, silence, second chances, you train people to keep charging you. I didn't win. I didn't get revenge. I got my dignity back. I got my life back. If it were you, would you pay and stay silent, or set the boundary and walk away? Comment your answer below.